Hi everyone. So I just wanted to make another intro for my intro and just kind of elaborate on all of the points that, or at least like elaborate a little bit further on some of the points that I make in this video. So I first just want to make like a few disclaimers, and I'm kind of like anti-disclaimer because I feel like if you have to make a disclaimer, then you didn't do a good job of explaining yourself. But I just want to, just for like, covering my grounds like sake, I feel like in this video that it may get misconstrued that I'm calling people who subscribe to clean beauty as like racist, classist, and like using greenwashing as a manipulative marketing tactic to manipulate a consumer into think that they're doing something good. And that's totally not what I'm saying. I'm saying that these are things that I've just firsthand experienced within working in the beauty industry for as long as I have. So a little bit of background about me, like I used to work, and I'm not saying anything bad about Aveda, but I used to manage an Aveda salon. I was a Aveda makeup artist. I've gone to a lot of esthetician conferences through Aveda, and I've worked with other brands. So that's just kind of like my background. So like if you don't know anything about Aveda, I would say that they would be considered like clean. I prefer to call them as like they're pretty natural, and they're inspired by like Ayurvedic practices through plants and healing and blah 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 blah. Anyways, so I would think that I've like had a lot of experience with like a diverse clientele and like just experiencing like different people of different economic backgrounds with like doing makeup and like talking about makeup and talking about like cosmetic products. And so yeah, I just wanted to like elaborate that I'm not calling anybody racist or classist or just like perpetuating manipulative marketing behaviors, but it is things that I've seen. I think a really good example, because I kind of go off about like Jones Road a little bit with like this kind of pretentious attitude towards like how she has her makeup brand like super clean and that it's the best and like you've been waiting for this and like all this stuff. I didn't preface that she kind of reminds me of like Gwyneth Paltrow with Goop, like that. And I think that's also what I mean by like affluent white women shaming people and making people feel like they're inferior if they don't subscribe to being clean and pure and white and right. That's kind of what I'm trying to purvey in this. And also like a really big thing, or a really big reason that I made this video, was to kind of poke fun at myself because of how many clean beauty products that I own and I didn't even realize. Like I was like, oh, do I subscribe to clean beauty? And like I don't, because I just don't. Like it's just not something that's like what I'm into. And something that I realized with like my research and trying to figure out what the actual hell clean beauty meant in the like beauty world and like the beauty community, at least the online beauty community as well, is that like it doesn't really mean anything, and that clean beauty is a very like personal journey. And so something that's clean to someone isn't considered clean to someone else. And it really has its origins in wanting brands to do better with what they put in their products and keeping people with really sensitive skin in mind. At least that's my understanding of it. And so everybody who has like sensitive skin, they have different sensitivities to different things, etc. You get what I'm saying? And so like something that would be clean to me, like with my own personal beliefs, is that it has a low carbon footprint, a low environmental impact. Where do they source their products from? And is it like a low carbon footprint / environmental impact? Like, are they harming rainforests? Like, you get what I'm saying? I would prefer my products to be cruelty-free, but not all of my products are. Yeah, and like I would like the way it to be shipped to me to be in all recyclable packaging. Like I would prefer my products to be fragrance free, and that means also essential oils. Like that's also another point that I make, is like they talk about fragrance, but something that isn't brought up a lot is like where they talk about like synthetic fragrance being not clean. Beauty brands tend to like do this thing where they fuse skincare with a cosmetic product, and thus like putting like semi-actives or like full-on actives in their products, and like along with essential oils, it's just doing a lot of like irritation to your skin. And you could ask any dermatologist, any esthetician, like that's what it's doing. Like, it's just because it's an essential oil doesn't mean that it's not going to irritate your skin. Coconut oil doesn't agree with a lot of people. It's just one of those things where just because it says that it's synthetic doesn't mean that it's bad. I also kind of go off about like shaming people for using fast fashion. That's also another like really personal experience that I've experienced here in Portland. I don't personally really buy anything from like fast fashion brands, and I think there's like a lot of it to do with like not only like this greenwashing approach that we're being fed a lot of times, but just because someone who can't afford to buy like sustainable clothing, it doesn't mean that they're complicit in sweatshops or what microplastics are going into the water when they do their laundry or like anything else. Like, some people just don't have the choice. And I've literally seen in professional and public settings, like when somebody is like nervous to say, oh, like I had to buy this pack of socks at H&M because I was in a bind and like I didn't get paid for 2 weeks, and like, you know, there was just like, there's like been a lot of instances with that, and then people being really cruel to them. And I just hate this like bougie classist attitude towards people who maybe don't have any other resources. And another thing is like, I used to always thrift shop. Like, that was like that was how I mainly got a lot of my clothes. And like, not only because I come from a very poor like economic background, like as a child, and like going to like Goodwill and Salvation Army was like where we shopped. I grew up in rural Pennsylvania, and like when I was a small child, and like we literally had nothing. But anyways, it's not about that. It's more so like I now like try to thrift a lot of my clothing, or I buy from like sustainable brands because that is within my means. And when I moved to Portland, I noticed that the thrift shops and the consignment shops and secondhand stores were incredibly expensive because people here see it as like a trendy thing to do. And I think it kind of defeats the purpose of these stores of making it like accessible for people within a certain economic means. Anyways, I think you get my point, is that like when I started going off about like people shaming people for like shopping at fast fashion, I'm not talking about people who that work a 9 to 5 and are making minimum wage and like, hey, I need some new jeans and these are all I can afford, getting them at like H&M for like $30 versus like a sustainable brand that could be up to 170 on the cheap side. You know what I mean? If they even make them in their size. That's also another point that may not be accessible to them either. And that's a lot different than somebody who's making like 6 figures doing these big Shein or Zara hauls, or like constantly promoting the new knitwear at H&M. Like, that's a totally different thing. And those are the people that are keeping these stores afloat, not the everyday blue collar working man. Another thing I also wanted to elaborate on is like the whole clean girl aesthetic. And so the clean girl aesthetic is definitely associated with the slick bun, the hoops, and the like brownish lipstick or lip liner. And the clean beauty community, at least in its history, has been, you know, predominantly white women. And so when this look, which has been appropriated from Black and brown women, starts to be associated with the clean girl look, which is mostly like the poster child as a white woman, like talking about like non-toxic ingredients, that's a problem. And that's the point that I'm trying to make in this video. And it kind of goes off on this like weird tangent. But yeah, I just want to like make it clear that I'm not saying that if you subscribe to clean beauty, that you're like a racist white woman in yoga pants. Like, that's totally not what I'm saying. I'm saying that this is a type of person that I've interacted with a lot, and they always seem to start talking about clean beauty when they found out like my like professional career, like in, or like my past, or like brands that I've worked for and stuff like that. Like they always just start talking about clean beauty and they have this like really superior attitude, and it's really left a horrible taste in my mouth. I do believe that clean beauty has a place, and it's a really important place, and I don't think that it should be discredited. I just think that we need to be more mindful about how we talk about it and like what we do in the future. Hi. Today's gonna be kind of maybe a controversial video because I'm going to be talking about clean beauty. I did a full face of clean beauty today, or what clean beauty is. I personally do not subscribe to clean beauty. Not that I think that it's wrong, but there's just like, there's no regulation on like what clean beauty is like around the world and or even in the States, because like if something's considered clean, like say you buy it at Credo, doesn't mean that it's clean at like Sephora, like it just, or Violet Grey or like anything like that. Like what does it even mean? Like, and if you know, then educate me, please, because the only thing I've gotten out of it that it doesn't contain like silicones, phthalates, sulfates, parabens, like stuff like that. But yeah, I just want to like talk about the issues that I've experienced over the years working in the beauty industry and like things that I've observed that are really toxic and problematic when it comes to the clean beauty community. But I will say that like people are doing a lot better and are a lot more like self-aware about the clean beauty type of label, and criticizing like people who maybe are not so inclusive and or just like passing around misinformation. Talking about like lack of inclusivity, classist attitudes, and greenwashing. Not that I think that if you subscribe to clean beauty or if one of these brands are one of your favorite brands, that I think you're like wrong or dumb or anything like that. Like clean beauty is essentially a really good thing. Being more conscientious about like the environment, what we're putting on our bodies or in our bodies, being vegan, being cruelty-free, like these are all really, really important things. And I just want to reiterate, just because something is like synthetic or has like preservatives in it doesn't necessarily mean that it's like bad for you or bad for the environment. Like a really good example is like squalane versus squalane. Like one comes from sharks, I believe, and one is synthetically derived from plants in a lab. I would personally much rather use that. And another thing is like the musk scent in perfumes. Like, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not like a perfume kind of person, but I only use like musk scents, but like one was once derived from a gland of a goat or something like that, which is now on the endangered species lists, and like now they use only synthetic musks, and so like I would much rather use that. Like leave the goat alone, like just for me to smell a certain way, you know what I mean? It's not all bad. It's not all bad if it's not clean, and that's just kind of the whole point that I'm trying to make. And I just have like a lot of thoughts and feelings, and this is just my experience of being in the community for a number of years. But yeah, so this is my full face of clean beauty, and if you want to hear my thoughts and feelings, just keep watching. Let's just get into it. The first product I'm going to be taking today is the Ilia Super Serum Skin Tint. It has like niacinamide, squalane. It's super hydrating, super dewy, and I think it's pretty high performing. Like once I got used to the formula of it, I really started to like it. And I think in the wintertime that the shade T4 is a really good match for me. It's like a nice, light, warm neutral. Ilia is considered a clean brand. It's pretty like point blank on their marketing that is like their main shtick. And I'm not really sure like what they do to consider themselves clean, but they are on both, I believe they're on Credo, but they're at least on Sephora, which the Sephora guidelines are very much, look at my hair. Sephora standards for clean beauty are like no parabens, no sulfates, no God, I can't say it. You know what I'm saying, the PHT one. No fragrances or anything like that. And I think anytime that there is sunscreen in their product, it is mineral. I think the mineral sunscreen smell is the scent that people complain about with this product. But I personally like it. I think it has like kind of like this like powdery like earthiness to it, and I like that in a product. I like an earthy like smell. This would be a good moment to jump off onto my point of greenwashing. So if you're unfamiliar with the marketing tactic of greenwashing, greenwashing is a marketing tactic done by brands, whether it's cosmetic or whatever, like it could be food, you know? It's a marketing tactic done by brands where they spend more money on the illusion of being eco-friendly than they are in their actual practices of being eco-friendly. And right now, I feel like there's an abundance of greenwashing right now, because it's trending for some reason. Like it's really trending to care about the planet and our consumption and our litter and what we're putting into landfills and what we're putting on our, and thus it's now become like, what are we putting on our skin, and this like holistic kind of thing. So it's leaked into the beauty sphere of the world. People are really into clean beauty because of this. For my concealer, I am taking my Kosas Revealer Concealer in the shade 3W. Kosas is very much like kind of like the new wave of clean beauty, where they seem a little bit more inclusive, at least from what I could see as like who I am in this world. This also has a fragrance. You know, clean beauty is all about like fragrances, but you know, this really smells like flowers, I don't know. Something with greenwashing that they do is, as a way to make people who care about the planet feel like they have the illusion that they're doing something good, is putting the responsibility of eco-friendly practices onto the consumer instead of just doing it themselves as a brand who is supposedly eco-friendly. I think a really good example of this is how brands package their products, because there's really no excuse to be wasteful with packaging now. Like there's so many like innovative ways to package products and have them get to you in a safe manner that you didn't waste your money because your product is broken. A really good example of this is like nude sticks versus Glossier versus Victoria Beckham Beauty. So like one is just really silly, one is like they're trying, and then one is fantastic. So nude sticks is just the silly one. If you have any experience of like, I haven't bought from nude sticks in a really long time, but all my products I own from them are getting kind of old, but at least like from the last time I bought from them, they still continue to put everything in those like single tin packages where you can store your product and it has a mirror in it, but it's not, you know, you don't need it. You don't need this. Like it should be optional, and they don't make it optional. But what they do is they give you like a biodegradable poly bag with a label on it where you can like opt like, please include this. And then they give you that so you can recycle up to 10 of the tins. So you have to buy like all of this product in order to justify sending it back according to them. And if you think about it, like if you just had the option of just not getting the tin and not having to send anything back, that's way less of an negative impact on the environment than it is the carbon emissions of like physically mailing something back to wherever nude sticks recyclable center is. It's just silly, and I quite frankly think it's really dumb and really irresponsible. And I just don't understand the point of it. And so if you don't do that, then you're then seen as like a person who doesn't care about the environment, when it's actually on them. Brand that's then doing like okay with it, but they could just do better, is Glossier. So Glossier used to always send their products in, I actually think I have one right here, because I think they're really great for travel, but like you don't need like a bunch of them, you know what I mean? They used to always send them in these pink little like bubble things inside of their packaging. And you know, people started complaining, and Glossier listened, so they give you the option, like, do you want it without the bubble thing or with, you know what I mean? And so, like, that's, like, a good thing that they're doing, but, you know, we don't need those bubble things. We just don't need them. And then a brand, I think, that is doing, like, really, really well, at least with, like, trying to be sustainable and like considering their carbon footprint when it comes to like waste and packaging and stuff like that, is Victoria Beckham Beauty. So all of her packages come in biodegradable and or recyclable packaging. So the only thing you have to do as a consumer is toss everything that she gave you other than your products into the recycling. There's no plastic, no anything. The styrofoam padding is made out of cornstarch, so once water hits it, it dissolves. And everything else is in cardboard, so you can just toss it into the recycling. So that, I mean, that's the actual step without making it the responsibility of the consumer. There's brands like Axology, which they've completely like taken packaging away and everything is just wrapped in paper that you can then recycle. I like the idea in theory, but like with it being clean, like a clean beauty formula, it doesn't have the like non-clean preservatives in it. So like, I don't know with it being exposed to air in that way, like how long these products might last and their performance over time. So it just might be, I don't know, I don't want to call it gimmicky without having tried it, but like packaging exists for a reason, to protect our products and to keep them like safe, you know? But that's my thoughts on that. So weigh in on the comments on Axology. Axiology? The next clean beauty brand is Saie. I feel like their marketing does, you know, portray them as a clean beauty brand. They're definitely in the line of like Tower 28, Kosas, and Saie are all like within that same like kind of bubble of like kind of new wave of clean beauty where it's all about like that clean girl aesthetic, you know, but not quite luxury. So the next point that I want to bring up with clean beauty that I have kind of like an eye roll-esque type moment with is like their total lack of like inclusivity. And that goes like with the obvious one of like lack of shade range for a diverse like population, and also this kind of like classist attitude that they have, and I don't even think they realize that they do it. And here are my points. I have to like go on and on about like the lack of inclusivity when it comes to like people with darker skin tones. Like we all know, and we've all been like, or at least like the majority of us have been kind of calling brands out on being like, hey, like that's not a deep dark, that's like a medium at best. Talk about that when I don't really feel like it's my place all that much as somebody who doesn't have the hardest time of like finding things in their skin tone, but it's very much a problem, and it directly impacts the like other point that I'm trying to make with the lack of inclusivity, which is the classist kind of rich white woman attitude that comes with a lot of clean beauty. It definitely perpetuate this whole like affluent white woman in yoga pants kind of thing, kind of mentality about clean beauty. And like just imagine like the skinny white woman in yoga pants talking to you about like all the like toxins that are in everything and how you need to only eat organic and like you should be able to afford this, and if you don't, then it's like this very big like, ew, you can't sit with us attitude that a lot of them have. I feel like I've definitely like, especially in like past years, like watched YouTubers have this type of attitude and hit unsubscribe so fucking fast because it's super classist. And with the whole like lack of inclusivity with like, you know, shade range, it does perpetuate the notion of like, if it's clean, it's white, then it's right. You know what I mean? Being a lot better, and I'm not saying if you subscribe to clean beauty, or if you work for a clean beauty brand, or if you like participate in like only using clean beauty is what I'm saying is that you feel this way, but it's just been my personal experience of like seeing this happen and people just not realizing that that's what they sound like. So like, there's a few things that like I can back this up with, and especially with like the classist kind of like semi-racist attitude that like people who kind of promote clean beauty kind of like purvey, being kind of classist and like dissing on like people who can't afford the same things as you. And a really big point is that clean beauty doesn't have the same type of like chemicals that preserve your products. And so they expire much more quickly. And so since they expire much more quickly, you have to buy them a little more frequently. Like there's certain things that I have had double the time of other products because one is clean and one is not. And they both perform beautifully, but one just starts smelling like sour milk like 3 months in. And so like, clean beauty isn't cheap. Like I've never seen a clean beauty brand and be like, oh, that's really, really cheap. That's a drugstore price. You know what I mean? Since these products quickly expire and they are expensive, you have to buy them at a more rapid rate. And so that kind of puts like a weird like shame onto the consumer that may not be like as economically successful as another consumer who is bragging about how, oh, I only consume this and I do this and that and blah, 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 blah. And it's just shitty. And I don't like it. I don't dig it. I don't dig it, dude. It definitely happens here in Portland a lot. Like I overhear, like, especially in like my line of work and like where I've worked in the past and stuff, like the things I would overhear like white women saying to each other, like especially like about brands like Westman Atelier or Jones Road, like they have a certain clientele. Now, mind you, I love every Westman Atelier product I've ever tried. Like I absolutely adore the brand, but there is a certain marketing tactic that's very like clean and white and right. And like I refuse to buy anything from Jones Road because they just give me the ick, dude. Like the way Bobbi Brown like talks about her products, and it's very like, well, if you're not using brands that have this certain type of ingredient, then like you're doing it wrong and blah, 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 blah. At least that's like my like understanding or like how I'm perceiving how she's talking about her products. And like, I don't jive with it. Like I don't jive with it at all. Oh my God, I wonder how much hate I'm gonna get in the comments for this, but it's just how I feel. It's just how I feel. Next I'm taking the next clean beauty brand, which I had no idea it was clean until I went on the website and did like kind of like an about, like read their like about the brand sort of thing. And it's the Rose Inc. Blushes, which are some of my favorite blushes ever. Anyways, so like greenwashing, lack of inclusivity, which deems it like there's like racist attitudes and also like, you know, this you can't sit with us poor person kind of attitude as well. That I just don't I just don't support that type of mindset. And I do want to commemorate like a lot of people that used to be into the like kind of clean space. Like Khaki Reviews Beauty is a really good example where like I wasn't sure about her views for a while because she did the whole like how clean is it thing, but I don't know if she recently came out the video or if I just saw an old video like pop up in my feed, but talked about like the kind of the like style appropriation that white women do to like black and brown women when it comes to like the slick bun and the hoops and like wearing like brown like lip liner and stuff, and saying that they made this up and it's like the clean girl look when women of color have been doing this look for years but not being considered clean looking. You get what I'm saying? Do you get it? Shit. So like I just want to like, you know, just kind of do a shout out and be like, thank you Khaki for like saying this out loud, because like she has a pretty big following, and like when you have a really big following, like the stuff you say about brands and how you talk about like people who may not be able to consume the same type of makeup as you is super important, and I think she does a really good job. So good job, Khaki. I felt like I was like wrong with these opinions on like the clean beauty community for a really long time, and someone who validated me was when I found the channel Slow Gaze. So Diana Chu is a YouTuber. She's like a graphic designer, she's like a fellow artist, and she's also a beauty enthusiast. I definitely like decluttered most of her makeup. She was like a fellow victim of like overconsumption and like was filling a hole in her heart the same way, like things I can really relate to. I think she's the one that kind of coined the like clean, white, and right like kind of terminology of like how a lot of like people who promote clean beauty in kind of a toxic way talk about clean beauty. Anyways, so like Diana Chu at Slow Gaze on YouTube, amazing channel, amazing content. She's so sweet. She's so sweet. Do the Westman Atelier lit up stick in the shade Nectar up here. and just kind of tap that in. Yeah, I'm just like really going off. Like I did like a whole deep dive last night on like greenwashing and like what clean beauty is and like what different brands consider to be clean and like different regions of like the world considered to be clean. It's wild. It's wild. There is no regulation. I'm so sweaty right now. Holy rip. Next brand that's considered clean is Roen. I was just so surprised with like how many brands that I like use and love that are like considered clean. Like it's so funny. Anyways, so yeah, there's just so much that goes into it. There's so much that goes into it that like is potentially super problematic and also like really, really good. Like something that's really good about clean beauty is like we're holding like companies to like a different type of standard of like not only performance but like a different type of standard when it comes to ingredients. And also like a really important one is that they're cruelty-free. Like I remember years ago that like there were hardly any really good cruelty-free brands, and if they were kind of like the clean beauty sphere. I remember specifically like Jackie Aina talking about it, how she would love, I don't know if she's cruelty-free now, and this is me like talking as like a person who like not everything I own is considered cruelty-free. NARS really hit me in the gut like when they started selling in China. Like that really hurt me. Because they were cruelty-free for so long and they chose money over ethical practices, you know? Yeah, Ina, like this is like years ago. I remember her specifically talking like, I would love to be cruelty-free, but like as a Black woman, I don't have, you know, like I have a hard enough time finding my shade. And like a lot of brands who are cruelty-free don't have the shades for me. So like I can only work with so much. And I think that kind of goes back to like all the points that I was making, like the lack of inclusivity and like, you know, the you can't sit with us mentality. I feel like now there are a significant amount of options when it comes to like being cruelty-free, and like it's really, really amazing. And I think that like more brands need to just like step up to the plate and like become cruelty-free and vegan and just like do what they can, because that's all we can do in this world is like just do what you can. And I think people really need to remember that instead of like criticizing each other and like I say this as I'm like criticizing people who are like toxic in the, you know, clean beauty world. So like people just need to be a little bit more understanding of one another and like recognize that like you can't be perfect in everything that you do, and just because you like use a non-clean beauty brand or like a non-clean beauty product doesn't mean that you like don't recycle or like don't, you know what I mean? Like there's so many things that like you can do to like help the environment. And to be quite honest, like you're not going to be making a huge impact on global warming and like the climate crisis by like just subscribing to clean beauty. Like you're really not. The most environmentally friendly thing you can do is just not consume anything. You know, like that's what you can do. And for my eyelashes, I'm going to go in with the Tower 28 Make Waves mascara. And this is definitely aging in the way that I expect clean beauty products to age, is that they don't have that long of a life. You know, like, this is definitely aging at a rapid pace. So I'm trying to use it up. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but it just goes along the lines of like, these things aren't cheap and you have to buy them more often. So you have to be within some sort of means to be able to do that, to subscribe to this sort of like ideology of clean beauty. I just hate the shaming that comes with certain things. Like when it comes to like pure ingredients or like just anything like that's supposed to be good and helpful for like the world and our environment and like our health. Like I hate the shaming because not everybody has the same accessibility to certain things. Like some people don't even have accessibility to recycling and we shame them for that. You know, like it's more so like it's not the consumer's fault. It's not, you know, like if you can, you should, but if it's not accessible to you, then it's not accessible to you, and that's not your fault. Another point I think I want to make is like kind of deviating away from like cosmetics is like the whole notion of fast fashion. Like, we all know that fast fashion is bad. Like, if you pay attention to anything that is contributing to the environment, it's definitely like fast fashion is a really big problem. It's a really big problem. But I feel like shaming people instead of the companies is also a very big problem. And a lot of sustainable brands like Madewell or Everlane, like luxury brands, don't accommodate like people who are plus size or like larger bodied. And it's just, you know, nobody considers that. Nobody really considers that into the like, because they just think that everybody is like this like skinny white woman. You know what I mean? A really good example is like what I'm wearing right now. I'm wearing this dress. All right. I'm wearing this dress from Saskia Clothing. They're a very small brand. They're all women owned. And they're very sustainable. They're like, these dresses are all handmade. They, you know, I wouldn't say that they're full luxury, but these are very expensive. They're expensive dresses, and they're like very like nicely made. They pay their employees a fair wage. Like it's just a really good brand. But something I gotta say is that their size range is absolute dog shit. Like, if I was like maybe 4 sizes bigger than what I am, I wouldn't be able to like purchase this. And like, you wanna, you know, support small businesses, you wanna support women, you wanna support workers' rights. And sometimes they just don't make that accessible to you. So that's also something to really consider the next time you like judge somebody who be like significantly not as like, you know, making as much money as you and or has a totally different body type than you. The last brand is Merit, which I had no idea. I had no idea they were clean. You can see how much I pay attention to this like trend. You know what I mean? This is in the shade Slip. I'm just doing a light little coat of that. Yeah, I'm really happy with this look. It looks good. It's nice and like fresh. I might put some powder on though. I'm feeling kind of sweaty. I'm just taking the Ilia translucent powder. Just trying to stay with the trend. This is also like, I only own like 2 powders, and this is the one that so happens to be clean. Yeah, that like, and that's not me supporting fast fashion at all. Like, it's really shitty, but like, it's like bad. Like we don't want to support things like putting like waste and plastic and whatnot into the environment. Everything that they do with their workers, we don't want that. We don't want that. It's just like, you know, I think that the working class poor consumer is not the problem. And there also just needs to be like repercussions for like the waste that they cause in the world. And that's not something that any like normal person in the everyday society can control, unfortunately. But that doesn't mean that I support fast fashion or like brands like H&M or Zara or Shein or anything like that. It's just I'm just saying to be a little bit more mindful. Just be a little bit more mindful about like who you're criticizing, because like nobody's perfect. So just look in the mirror before you criticize people, because it's just don't be a dick. Don't be a dick. Let me just get down off my soapbox and just end this video here. This is my full face of clean beauty. I was really surprised with how much clean beauty that I owned. Like, I could create a different look like multiple times over. Like, that's how many clean beauty products that I own. For being a person who doesn't pay attention to it and or subscribe to the ideology of clean beauty, I do own a lot of it, but I think it's just more so like my preference in the performance of the makeup products. Yeah, let's have like a friendly discussion like down below. And yeah, this, I just want to reiterate, this wasn't me like bashing any brands like in particular. Like Jones Road still kind of like makes me like, gives me the ick a little bit. But like, this isn't me like calling out any of the brands that I was like using. And or if you only use clean beauty, like, this isn't me calling you like wrong or dumb or anything like that. This is just me like putting kind of like a critical lens on the whole movement or all of that. Anyways, this is my full face of clean beauty, and I hope you enjoyed, and I would love to continue this discussion in the comments and know your thoughts and opinions. And if I like missed like a whole point, let's talk about that too. Like, I love it. I love critical discourse. All right. Thank you. I love you. Goodbye.